Welcome to 6 Minutes. Jason Fulmore, SE Wrestle. I'm here today with Jaxon, Pablo, Bast. Hey, Jaxon.
Hey, how's it going?
It's crazy. I mean, honestly, it is absolutely crazy. I'm losing my mind. But not to digress, how are you doing?
I can't complain. I know that we just got back from 12 hours in a car with wrestling for 2 days. So I'm glad I had Sunday to recover and get back to doing this on Monday. And then we've got conference on Friday. So it's pretty good.
It's that time of year. It's that time of year for colleges. It's that time of year for high schools. We just finished the Georgia State Championship. We now transition to obviously Alabama and North Carolina. You and I are talking about Alabama today. We finished sectionals in Alabama, and we get a chance to talk a little bit about the state tournament brackets. And just to give everybody an overview of kind of what we're going to talk about, I do a fans guide, which is in my plus part of the website, where I talk about like a favorite and contenders and a dark horse. And a dark horse is really defined as somebody who maybe didn't have the best sectional, but is kind of flying under the radar, and somebody who, might surprise a few people at the state tournament. And then like I identify a big best match and that sort of thing. And I think you and I are going to do that from your perspective. You're going to give us kind of your favorite, who you think, and maybe a dark horse, maybe not. You don't have to do it for every weight class, and maybe kind of some potential matchups that look pretty cool. Does that work for you?
That works for me.
All right, man. Jackson's got people calling him.
I apologize for that.
You're good, man. You're good.
I'm good.
All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first share this because I want to talk a little bit about this so that for those people who don't understand how this works. Okay. So can you see it, Jaxon?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. So we've got 5A, 6A, and we've got a 16-person bracket. Okay. And in 5A, 6A, what we have basically is there aren't any seeds in 5A, 6A. They have pretty much strictly separated the section. So Trey Peeler won the South. He's up here at the top. And the South number 2, who is Noah Guthrie's down here away from him. The South 3 is right here. So the earliest the South 3 could meet the champ would be here in the semifinals. The South 4 is in this quarter, again, away from the 2 in this quarter. And basically you flip it for the North. So you will see that the South 1 at 113, Lozado, Strickland, Hudson Waldrop, and they're all in the basic same spots on the bracket. Okay, so it's pretty straightforward as far as 5A, 6A, they separate them in this way. But that isn't the case in 7A and 1A, 4A. And what I want to do with 7A is I want to talk just a little bit about the 106s so everybody understands. And if you're ever interested, you can totally click the track wrestling and you can hit weights and you can hit 7A and you'll see seeds out here to the side. And this is how I do it. I don't know if you do it the same way, but anyway, what you can see here is that Thomas Gear won the South and he is the 1 seed. Stone Phillips won the North and he is the 2 seed. Okay. And we have a 2 here, but it's not the number 3 seed is Simon from Huntsville, who actually ends up on the same side of the bracket as the person he lost to in the North because he is seeded 3. And then in the number 4 spot, Clark Box is also from the North. And he finished 3rd ahead of Jake Thompson, who actually ends up on the same side of the bracket as Thomas Gear. So this is totally seeded out as opposed to 5A, 6A, right? Anything you want to add to that, Jaxon?
No, I mean, you covered it pretty well. I think it's been interesting. I think it was my junior year when they started doing it. So, and I think it's brought a lot more interesting stuff. Obviously, those seeds don't end up following all the time, but it's just seeds are seeds. It's just somebody's guess.
Yeah, and and seats are done. I want everybody to understand seats are done so that you hopefully get the two best kids wrestling each other in the finals. Like you said, it doesn't always work out that way. And you know what? We wouldn't want it to always be 1 versus 2 in the finals. It doesn't work. It doesn't happen in tennis. It doesn't happen in whatever sport you're talking about. I mean, NCAA basketball, March Madness. If it always worked to chalk, you'd have all the number ones from each of the 4 areas playing one another, and so on and so forth. And we love the Cinderella stories. We love the upsets. We loved all those things. So when you and I talk about a kid who's a dark horse, it's not as if we're talking about a kid that we don't think can win. Maybe has proven all year that they have the ability to make a run through the bracket. But according to the seeding, they were placed pretty far down. And, that's the way that works. They're going to have to battle through to get to the top. So, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've read your fan guide since I was 14 years old. So I'm well aware what a dark horse is.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to bring it up because I'm not sure everybody does, and I don't want us to just start talking about it. So, give me just big headlines from the weekend. Just it doesn't have to be any particular classification. What stood out to you before we get into these brackets?
Obviously I have to go with number 1, that match against Corey Land and Isaiah Poe. I think I don't think the score really reflected how that match actually went. I think there were a couple positions that were it could go this way or go that way. And it ended up going most of them in Corey's favor, obviously. But I was really surprised at the ways that Isaiah was able to take down Isaiah. Like there were certain things, like I saw a mat return. I've never in my life since probably, I don't know, a couple years, but I would say in my life, but a couple years back, I haven't seen Corey Land been mat returned ever.
Yeah.
Like he's up, he's out. So I think we saw a lot of maybe I've lost the word where you could see that his armor is penetrable, like he's got a couple weaknesses that I think maybe others are looking forward to. I think a lot of people, Corey's an amazing wrestler, probably the best in Alabama currently, but I think a lot of people always put him up, and I think they beat themselves a lot. But I think that kind of shows there's a little bit of weakness in Corey.
Yeah. So, I mean, certainly, so I see Corey much more outside of Alabama than I see him inside of Alabama. And I saw him lose in the Super 32 finals to PJ Duke of New York. I believe PJ is from New York. And, I think what Isaiah demonstrated is that he can compete. Now, whether he's able to pull that off and pull off a win, obviously it was a very close match on the mat, but it ended up being 14-7, on the final score. And if you get a chance to go back and watch it, I think you'll see different positions, like Jaxon says, that, who knows, I mean, Isaiah's going for a takedown. Next thing you know, Corey throws him to his back, and you got a 5-point swing in that situation. Now, don't take anything away from Corey, because that's a fantastic move. That's what you need to do in that situation. I think what we're alluding to is the fact that he didn't run through him like he runs through everyone else. And if you've got some popcorn ready, that is the match that you want to watch at the state tournament. So what's another one that you saw, or a headline that you saw that kind of stuck with you?
I guess these are a little more specific, but in 7A, I definitely saw 2 of the Bob Jones guys at 52, Manuel Marrero, and at 82, I saw Evan Pitt. I saw both those guys winning, but obviously neither one of them, they both made the finals. So they were the 3 seeds. Both of them were injured last year, so they didn't get the chance to wrestle, and they out wrestled their seed because they both ended up making the finals. But I was definitely a little surprised that Pippin didn't end up beating Conlon. It was just something that, Pippin's won the North before. I know that Conlon's never been in that kind of situation. So I was a little surprised. Obviously, Conlon, a state placer. I don't think Pippin's ever placed. he actually won the North, and then he went 0-2.
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that I think the one thing that was a takeaway for me is that there were some close matches over the weekend. There were some really tight matches. And what it does for me is it just opens up this like, oh man, if this person can make this adjustment, we might have ourselves a pretty interesting, semifinal or quarterfinal or whatever the case is this coming week in Huntsville. I don't think that there's this clear cut champions that are going to run to the title as maybe there might have been in the past. So anyway, all right, man, you want to jump into this?
I sure do.
All right. Well, let's start with 7A since I'm already there. 7A 106. And Thomas Gear from Thompson comes in as our top seed. Stone, who won the North, is on the bottom. What does this bracket say to you? Who's the favorite? Is Gear the 1 seed the favorite? Do you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. Now, don't get me wrong. Stone Phillips, an 8th grader, has done a fantastic job of really solidifying himself as a contender. But I saw Thomas Gear really kind of push him to his limits in the state dual finals. So I'll be interested to see if Stone can make that adjustment. And I've seen it over and over and over again when it comes to Vestavia. Vestavia, I don't know what they do, but like James Edwards, back his junior year, he's wrestling a Josh Smith, who not only pinned him in the regular season, but majored him in the sectional finals. And the biggest thing that his adjustment was he had to ride legs. And I was talking to, it was Coach, oh, I just lost his name. Coach Gadosh. Because that was his last year there. He had this guy who was really good at riding legs. So he had James defending riding legs every time. And eventually James Edwards ended up winning that. He won that match 6-5. So Vestavia is one of those teams that's really good in figuring out how they need to adjust going into the finals.
All right. Yeah, no, and that's a credit to that coaching staff and everything else. So before I take you to 113, do we have a dark horse at 6?
Honestly, and I would say Jake Thompson, but the biggest dark horse for me is going to be Samuel Kirk. This guy, I don't know when he came in. I want to say he's either right before the wrestling season or at the break. But the first time I watched him was at the Region 4 duels, and he was tearing apart a couple of ranked kids. I think Colton West was ranked number 5 at that time, and he pinned West in the first. And he's a pretty impressive guy. He's ranked pretty low, but I could see him making the podium at least in that 3rd, 4th place spot.
Yeah, so I agree with you. I think that Kirk is definitely one to watch. He's a tough person to get off the scale. So Stone really needs to bring it in that opening match, in my opinion. All right, so let's jump to 13. We got our number 1 seed, Yannick Simon, and our 2 seed, Kiowa Vines. 3 seed is Tipton, and I think our 4 seed is Kel Tucker if our spots are all in the right spots. Do you agree that Simon is the favorite?
Oh, yeah. Well, oof. I don't know.
We got a defending state champ, right? I mean, woo, man, that's just a good bracket, right?
Yeah, and I'm torn because obviously Kiowa kind of ran the South, but Yannick took apart a state finalist and a state champ,
right,
in his route to the sectional title. So I would probably go Yannick, but Kiowa Vines was actually my pick last season to be the one to beat Bradley before Tipton ended up doing it. I don't know if I think it was Mac Chandler kind of had his number in certain situations, but that was probably my top pick. So I wouldn't be surprised if Kiowa gives Yannick a run for his money in the finals.
All right. So let's jump now to 120. And for me, 120, I could see 5 different wrestlers winning the weight class. McFarland got the number 1 seed probably because of the win over Jones. So give me your favorite and give me your assessment.
My favorite's probably Corey Jones. See, I've seen they split matches during the dual playoff between Enterprise and Thompson. Corey Jones obviously won that match. We saw the poor ref fall off the stage. Shout out to Todd Dewey. But no, seriously, Corey Jones, he's a senior and he's kind of put that work in. Corey Jones has always been around that. Maybe he slides into that fourth or third or fourth spot. But honestly, I don't know. But I'd probably go pick Corey Jones to win it all.
So I apologize to everyone. My dog is losing her mind. It's very interested in the mailman. Anyway, all right. So yeah, no, it's an interesting weight class. All right, so let's jump to 26 and returning what? Two-time state champion? Is that right?
Yanni's a two-timer, yeah.
Yeah, Yanni's a two-timer. And Yanni, I mean, look, I'm not going to ask you who the favorite is because I think that Yanni is the clear favorite. The question I guess I have for you is who is a dark horse and what do you think is the likelihood that somebody's going to knock him off?
I honestly, I don't see too much of a dark horse. They seeded it pretty soundly. I just lost the name. Do you remember who Baylor Hardy wrestled in the consolation semis at sectionals?
Consolation semis at sectionals. I don't, but I can look it up real quick.
Let's see, because who he beat in that match very much impressed me. So I'm probably going to go Baylor Hardy as my dark horse. Now I don't see anyone.
We're at 26, right?
Yes. Oh, Cedric Abney. That's what it was. Yes. He beat returning placer Cedric Abney. So I'm probably going to put him as my dark horse.
Yeah, that's a good win.
I mean, and that's Cedric Abney is a guy who beat Bradley Williams. Bradley was around that number 4 spot. Obviously, Zach Fleury was also at 26 before making the bump up to 32.
Mm-hmm.
So Bradley's going to end up putting himself as that 2 right now. But I could see Bailey Hardy making some noise. I don't see Carson Ferris beating Bradley, but I think Yanni's got a pretty solidified pass to that third title.
Yeah, I like that analysis. I agree with you. I think a person that might want to keep an eye on is Dalton Zimmerman, Trustville, but he sits on the same side as Yanni, so that's a tough draw, getting the 4 seed there. All right, so let's jump to 132 in 7A, and again, I think this is another weight where, I mean, it looks pretty wide open to me. I could see, again, a number of different individuals that could make a run here. So talk to me.
I mean, that was a perfect blanket statement for this weight. I'm a little surprised that they have Morrow and Hogard so low. I think both those guys are both placers. Now where I see Dempsey, Morrow, Hogard, and Bird all placing, I could see Sanks maybe beating one of them out. But honestly, I see those 4 or 5 guys are, like you said, any of those 5 guys can win a title here. Because these are all kind of guys who, I would say Morrow is probably the only guy prior this year who's kind of shown that he can command some respect on the mat, but all of these guys have had a really big breakout year. So outside of Dempsey, Dempsey also made the finals last year.
Right.
Of course, he caught a very tough Nick Smith.
Right.
I mean, I don't think the thing that made me draw back is I don't think he really beat someone who was overwhelmingly tough in that bracket. He caught a really good draw in the semis with the upset.
How much does being there last year and making the finals really kind of helped Dempsey as he walks in this year?
I think that's a really big deal. Obviously, not a lot of people. I almost wonder if it's going to be different for him because there wasn't so much pressure on him last year that he had already made the finals. And nobody really expected him to beat the returning champ in Nick Smith.
So a little bit more pressure this year.
I say a little more pressure because he's got a very, very, very high chance of winning it.
Got it. Okay. All right. So. Let's jump to 138. And this is a fun weight class. I think Turris is definitely the favorite in my opinion. But I'm going to throw out a dark horse, and I like Parker Edmondson. I thought he wrestled really well last weekend, and it wouldn't be surprising. I'm not going to say he's going to win in the semis over Turris or anything along those lines, but as a 5 seed, not somebody that I think anybody can take lightly. How about you?
No, he's had an absolute amazing season. When you talk about the depth, I mean, Edmondson hadn't seen starting time in his career yet. And he goes ahead and makes the finals at the South section.
Right.
I mean, that's a pretty crazy feat. Obviously, I think there's a good bit of depth. I'd be more interested to see maybe another rematch between Turris and Fields. Not until I looked over these brackets that I realized that Turris only had one loss, and it's the one match I have of him on my Instagram when he took on Sam Sutton.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, so obviously he's kind of fixed a couple more things up. Section champ.
Yeah,
but I would probably say that he is the guy. He's gonna be the guy to beat. He's probably the favorite. I would say that Edmondson's probably my dark horse as well. So I'll be a little interested to see where this place goes.
All right, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. Okay, so let's start this one a little bit differently, in that because 7A 145, at least to me, looks like it should be the 1 versus 2. But before we get to the 1 versus 2 conversation, is there a match that you see in that first round or in the potential quarterfinals that you might want to sit down and say, hey, this is a match that you might want to watch?
I think I kind of understand who you're alluding to, and it's got to be that 4 and that 5 spot.
Yeah.
That was a really solid match. I believe that they wrestled in sectionals, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
I believe they did. And that was that. Then I remember it correctly. It was a very fireworks filled kind of match. I mean, Handy, obviously the younger brother of the state placer from Grissom a couple years back. But I mean, he's probably my dark horse too. I knew McKinney was the 2 seed, ended up placing 3rd. Handy made the finals against Reeves, but I think that McKinney might have a shot of getting some revenge on the Grissom Tiger.
Yeah, so I think I'm remembering correctly. I want to say, guys, I've watched a lot of wrestling over the last bit of time, and it's sometimes it's hard to remember. Yeah, so it was that 2-1 match right there. It's it's very interesting to get rematches, especially early in the state tournament that just happened, and that's a lot of fun. So I'm gonna jump down to 52, but before we jump to 52, are you agreeing with me that Latona Reeves is we pretty much you're thinking that that's gonna be the final?
Oh, 100%. I don't see very much now. I will be interested to see that kind of matchup between those two. And actually kind of a good segue into the next was that you don't get to see a lot of rematches, but in that 4 and the 5 slot, you get to see the rematch between, well, I don't even, it wasn't a rematch, was it? Because they didn't get to wrestle.
No, I don't think they got to wrestle. I think that, was it a medical forfeit?
Yeah, I think, well, I believe Paxton Miller medically forfeited to Ethan Lasser.
Yeah. So talk to me about a favorite here.
I would say the favorite's probably Reeves. Honestly, I did. Although if you had asked me last week, I probably would have said Marrero would be my favorite to win it. Now, I wouldn't discount Johnston. I would say that Clay has a very good shot of kind of working with Vestavy this week, and maybe he gets a couple shots in and finishes those with Morera. So.
Yeah, so I agree. I think Lucas Reeves is definitely the favorite. It'll be interesting not to. I mean, he's wrestled so well this year. I just don't look ahead. Take every single step that's necessary to get to the next point. So definitely an interesting weight class. All right, so 160. Harris Mitchell gets the 1 seed because I believe of his win over Will Garrett in the state duels. Are you buying that Harris Mitchell is the favorite at 160, or are you sticking with Garrett, or is it someone else?
Obviously, I'm a little more of a statistics kind of guy, so I'm probably going to end up going with Mitchell currently. Garrett had a really close 1-0 match against Andrew Shelton. Harris Mitchell has kind of been pretty dominant this season. I was pretty surprised to see that loss happen in the state dual finals. But
yeah. Although I didn't Harris get pushed a little bit by the Sparkman kid Cardamone in the section as well. So I don't know that I watched that match, but I think the score was pretty close.
I believe you're right. I think it was a 2-point, 3-point match. So, and honestly, Cardamone was the guy who lost them bloods last year. So I wasn't super impressed. Didn't think we were going to see too much of him, but he kind of made a statement this past Saturday in Birmingham.
Yeah, so I just looked back over it, and it looked like that Mitchell actually got the win in sudden victory in the finals. So there you go. And putting him and Garrett on the same side is it's going to be fun. All right, so let's jump to 170, and John Edwards is returning state champ, right? He gets the 1 seed. Had a really good win over a tough Sebastian Davis in the North. Do you agree he's the favorite? And if he is, who might be your dark horse?
I would probably say John Edwards is my favorite, and I would probably go with Dalton Kovacs as my dark horse. He moved up from Florida this year, and he's been kind of tearing some kids apart in Mobile County. He had a solid match against Freeman in the finals. Like I said, he's probably my dark horse. I don't know if he could beat someone like Sebastian Davis, but I could see him maybe sliding in that 4 spot.
Okay. All right. So let's jump to 182. And wow. I mean, just from top to bottom, again, this is another weight that I think that anybody, there's a number of different people who get on a run and win the title. So, Lamy is the number 1 seed. Are you buying that Lamy is the favorite and or not?
No, I mean, I would probably still go with Lamy. He had a pretty hard fought win over Conlon in the Battle of the Ball when they wrestled Spain Park. And I would probably say that I think Lamy is probably going to win it. Like, I think that he's pretty solidified up there when it comes to who's going to win this thing. But I could see those I think it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, and then everybody else. I think those 2, 3, 4s can all kind of switch it up. But it's the state tournament. You can see anything.
Yeah. And I meant to go back before we got on and actually look back to last year and see how many 3s and 4s in 7A actually made it. Well, actually last year might not have worked because we had different brackets because of COVID. So it's always interesting to me to see the number that there's always a couple weight classes where somebody who is in the top 1, 2, 3 seed like makes their way out and surprises everyone. All right. So 195, Hunter Jones show or you got somebody else?
I would say it's the Hunter Jones show. And I say that I think, Todd Whitmire's probably going to get that one over Tubbs. I think we're going to see a rematch, the sectional finals. In the finals, Now I know that Smith Station had 2 guys ranked in the season. But I could definitely see Johnston. Yeah, Johnston. I think he's probably my dark horse. In who's going to probably slide into that 3 or 4. I don't see anybody else. Tubbs maybe gets second. I haven't seen that kind of matchup before. Tubbs very strong, athletic kind of wrestler. Todd's really long. He's got that cradle on you. It's game over, honestly.
So I really like the Johnston Gallman opening round match. I think that's a really interesting opening round match. I'm sure they probably have seen one another because they're down in the same neck of the woods. But I know Gallman was up at 220 earlier, so maybe they haven't, and that will be a really interesting match. All right, 220. Boy, I've said this several times now, and I just think that there's a number of different individuals who can find a way to take the title here. But I think Sykes is the favorite. What do you think?
I think Sykes is the clear favorite, and that really pains me because I know we were talking about with Georgia. We were talking about Sam Harris, who had placed. He had made the finals, hadn't really pushed through, and I was hoping that was going to be kind of the season for Kyle Watson. Now Desmond Nesbitt has kind of shown. I know he beat who's currently the number 2 ranked wrestler at heavyweight, Rayshad Burtz. He pinned him in the first off of a double leg. Was able to hold him there. Now, if you'd asked me in the beginning of the year, Kyle Watson, Chris Hawkins, honestly, I was a little surprised that Chris Hawkins took it to Kyle Watson to beat him in the Slade Umbach finals. But with Chris Hawkins being able to work out with Hunter Jones every day, it's no surprise that he got better.
Yeah, no, I think that's actually a really good thing to bring up is that, and I want to do this analysis and I've never gotten the chance, and that is the number of placers who have a teammate who places at one weight class, like a weight class above or a weight class right below, because I think, you see that over and over and over again, and you really see it in the growth of the wrestler who's chasing the person that they're working out with every single day. So, I don't know that Hunter Jones has necessarily made the huge jumps, but I think Chris Hawkins has definitely shown that he has the ability to compete at 220, probably, and I don't know this for sure, but probably because of the exposure of having to wrestle with Hunter every single day.
When I went home and I went to that Hewitt Trustville Holiday Clash, I'm like, I don't know. I was talking to Hunter. I was talking to Hunter and Owen Boren, who was an alumnus from Hewitt, and I was like, I don't know how Chris Hawkins got so good. And Hunter looks at me, gives me this like death glare, and it's like, it's because of me.
All right, man. Let's jump to 285, your favorite weight class. Who we got as a favorite?
I don't think I can really make a comment on this weight.
Because you don't know anything about heavyweights?
Oh, no, I know. Honestly, like I really don't want to pick a favorite here because I'm extremely biased. I'm gonna go with Rayshad Burtz, obviously. Kid's an absolute hard worker. I really don't like making my biases come in, but when I know that he's beaten everybody except for Flag. But then again, it's kind of been that what people call the ranker's delight. When somebody beats somebody beats another person. I think this is one of those weights that you would say that a lot of people can win it. We saw a lot of really, really close matches this weekend.
Yeah, no. And I think actually, I personally I personally believe that you should just own your biases. So, own it and just go with it. You're former, Jag from Spain Park, and you obviously have your opinions. And, if you're coaching at another place or you wrestled at another place, you probably have those opinions as well. And it's actually one of the fortunate things for me in that I never coached or wrestled in Alabama. So I don't really have that. And I'm 50 something years old. So even if I had, it was so long ago, I don't know that it really matters anymore anyway. But let's go wrap up 7A and just really quick, let's touch on the teams. So on the teams, Is it Thompson, or is it Vestavia, or is it somebody else?
And I'm going to say this statement, and I don't want it to come out the wrong way, but I really, Vestavia won a much harder section.
They did.
And they placed 13.
They
now,
did.
We didn't mention the one wrestler they didn't place because it's irrelevant going into this weekend. I mean, obviously it's relevant that they didn't get somebody at 126.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is they don't. But it was
and it's relevant because Thompson got all 14.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even at the weights where, they got fourth, or third, don't get me wrong. They have a bunch of firsts and everything else, but getting that fourth place through and getting points from that fourth or that third can be huge, whether they happen on the front side or the back side. And having one more wrestler could be the difference. I'm not saying it will be the difference. I'm just saying it could be the difference. Do you think anybody's with the two of them, or do you think it's really a two-horse race?
I don't know. I mean, Hewitt has proved that they're forced to be reckoned with.
I agree.
So I'll be a little interested to see what kind of things they can make happen in the Von Braun Center. I don't really see. I think it's pretty those 1-2, and there's a big gap.
Yeah, and the reason I brought that up is I think that, again, you're right in that Hewitt has shown it. The challenge for them is that they bring in fewer than either Vestavia or Thompson, and that's hard. That's a hard thing to overcome. Even if you get 3 champs or whatever the case is, it's hard to overcome that. So, all right, man. So let's jump to 1A, 4A. You good with that?
That'll work with me. Let's go.
All right. So let's jump to 1A, 4A. And let's start with 106. The little guys. Boy, little Zeke Dernlin has looked pretty good this year. He comes in as the 1 seed. Yeah, and he wrestled tough last weekend. Is he your favorite?
Oh, easily my favorite.
Yeah,
probably my one of my favorite wrestlers in all of 1 through 4A. Just to watch, but he made a statement this past weekend when he wrestled Fink in the finals.
Yeah, he looked super good. I didn't watch much 1A, 4A, but he looked super good.
He stuck Dalton Fink, and that's in the finals of the sectional tournament. I would say the North was a lot closer.
Mm-hmm.
Wah did a pretty solid job handling the North, but that was, like I said, it's a lot closer. I think it's probably that race to second, honestly, when it comes to these two, or when it comes to this weight.
I agree with you. I will say that Meads really impressed me in the state duels, stepping up really big for Asheville and things like that. I don't think that he beats Dernlin, but it is interesting that he draws him first. So, all right, let's jump to 13. Oh, and yeah, so Shamar Hurd and Gavin Kilgore, they wrestled each other in the finals, correct? Am I right about that?
I believe you're right, because Claiborne County should be in the South.
So that's Rouse. Yeah, I thought that. I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, Hurd beat pinned Kilgore in the second period. I didn't really see them. I didn't see the match, but I did look at Hurd and getting pins all the way through, which I thought was exceptionally impressive. And he wasn't the top seed. So, so is he now the favorite after doing that last weekend?
I don't know. I'm a little impartial to Kilgore. Last year, I think Kilgore was around 5 or 6 when it came to the rankings. Obviously, he ended up coming out on top in the end. And he messaged me quite a bit during the season, like, "Hey, I just beat this guy. Hey, I just beat that guy." I'm like, "That's cool, dude. Whatever." Like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna change my rankings right then and there. But
right. But he's letting you know, and he,
yeah.
you know, and I think that bringing that up is that, you know, he was there last year and proved that he has all the ability in the world to claim the title. And I think the thing that I want to make sure I point out to everyone is that just because what happened in sectionals does not necessarily indicate what will happen this coming weekend. Doesn't mean that it won't. And I think the past is the best predictor of what the future might look like. But it doesn't surprise me, and it wouldn't surprise me if some individuals who took second in their section end up figuring out a way to claim a title. So that said, all right, so let's jump to 4A, 1A, 4A, 120. And tell me, do you have a dark horse here? Do you have a favorite here? Talk to me a little bit about this.
I mean, I'm a little surprised that Jaxon Brandlet is all the way down at the 5. I had him ranked pretty high in the middle of the season. I'll be interested to I guess it's going to be a rematch between Hartson and Mayfield, because Mayfield's definitely shown up and shown out this season. I believe, and then Lowe won the North.
Right.
So
yeah, no, I think that this is probably your best opening round match. And then we'll have to see if Lowe can kind of maintain the momentum, or, you know, you kind of know what you get with Mayfield on the bottom side. But yeah, Hartson's sitting up there at the top seed. All right, so 126 is, what do you got for me?
Now this is going to be a final that I'm extremely excited to see, between Monk and Marcus Wright. The guy that didn't meet last weekend, obviously Monteval's in the South, Westminster's in the North. So I think this is going to be a very interesting matchup. I know Monk trains at Ironclad year round. Marcus Wright, an ATA kid. These are two guys who were the prime example of summer wrestlers make winter champions. So
yeah, I love that mantra. And I think you're 100% right in the how much time they put in. Anybody sitting in the bracket that we might want to keep an eye on out for?
I wouldn't be surprised if we see something from Pennington, from Deschler,
Okay.
especially if he's got that group of guys trying to root him on. Maybe Deschler's got a pretty solid shot of capturing a team trophy, maybe a blue or a red map. So maybe he gets a little more momentum going into this weekend. So he's probably my dark horse.
All right. So now let's jump to 132. And so for me, Jack von Eschenbach, I think has shown, at least in my opinion, to be kind of the person to beat at 132-ish weights in 1A, 4A. Do you agree with that? And if you don't, who are you looking at?
No, I mean, you're extremely right. I was a little surprised that we didn't see Richmond from Westminster Christian at 132. I heard he was making that drop. But I mean, outside of that, I would have said that if you put Herrick on the bottom half at any point, I say he's the guy that's going to make the finals. But I was a little surprised that they put him at the 5. Maybe a couple losses that I didn't get to watch.
Right.
But I would say Rodriguez is probably my favorite to make the finals on the bottom side.
Certainly somebody to watch, definitely. And we're going to go flip to his teammate here at 138, and that's Titus Franklin, who takes the top spot, the top seed, and really has looked kind of focused, tuned in to making a run. I think after taking second last year, wasn't he second last year?
Yes.
Yeah. So do you see him being the favorite here? And we got the Herrick on the bottom side with a good Jose Calderon in this bracket.
Yeah, I would say that Titus is probably my favorite to win. Definitely that first round match you want to look at is the 4 and the 5 once again with
Yeah.
Laster and Ebner. And then I want to see another matchup between Herrick and Calderon.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Well, and they have work to do to get there, but it certainly seems like that could be a really, really fun semifinal match. All right, so let's jump to 145s. And we have a forfeit in the bracket. I don't know exactly what that is. In Georgia, they actually will open it to alternate. So if you took fifth, that they can put somebody in so that there's not a bye, especially in an 8-man bracket. I don't think Alabama does that. So maybe the 4 out of one of the 2 was hurt last weekend and unable to compete this weekend. Is that a negative for River Scruggs as the favorite and the top seed to have kind of a buy into the semifinals? Just your opinion. I mean, each kid is going to do it their own way, but
yeah.
I'm just talking about if it were you.
If it were me, I definitely like having those first round matches.
Yeah, me too.
Especially against somebody who's not like because obviously I'm not going to wrestle the state finals first match out there.
Right.
So if I can get a pretty, I don't want to say like someone who's pretty easy in that first round match, I would absolutely love it.
Certainly somebody who seems to be easier than what you're going to get in the semifinals.
Yeah, 100%. Now,
anybody else in this bracket that interests you that you might want to keep an eye on?
Now, I watched the match between Van House and Poole. Poole's kind of impressed me a little bit more. I definitely had Rayborn pretty high, but I think I've honestly thought that Van House is going to be the guy to beat River Scruggs the entire season.
Oh, okay.
I know that's a little much, but I honestly wouldn't be surprised if we saw that. Obviously Scruggs, he went undefeated last year. I think that had to do with COVID, and I don't think he got to wrestle too many people outside the little bubble of Tuscaloosa and some of those 1 through 4 schools they were required to wrestle. But
okay, so you can find Jaxon Bast on Instagram at Alabama Wrestling Forums. That's where you're going to want to respond to any types of what you think are slights in any way, shape, or form. I'm just kidding, Jaxon. Go ahead.
No. I mean, I just a disclaimer: anything I've ever said on any show, any podcast I've ever done, I take full backing to it. I hate when people are emailing me like, "Oh, you're wrong." I'm like, "No, I'm not." But it's okay. People can be wrong about me being wrong. They're just human.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Okay. All right. Humility. There you go. That's right there. A good example. All right. So let's jump to 152. And, for me, if you would have told me at the beginning of the year that was the top side of the bracket at 152, I would have thought, wow, that's tough. That's a tough side of the bracket, in my opinion. And John Lexon Caldwell and Jake Huff meeting each other in the first round, just based upon past experience or past success.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think Cedars got a pretty nice boat ride on his way towards the finals. I think I could see a little bit of upsets coming on in that top half, 100%. I'd be surprised if Huff gets the upset over King. Like I said,
but Huff has to win that first round match first.
Oh yeah, I think if he wins that first round match, he's got a really solid chance against King.
All right, let's jump to 160, and now we begin our run of some Weaver hammers that probably should, I would assume, have to be the favorites at each of these next 3 weight classes. Please tell me if I'm wrong as we go through them. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, with that first thing, yeah, I think, yeah, Weaver has Johansson, Ursi and Anderson, all in that 1-2-3 punch, as they talk about in wrestling. I think Johansson's pretty much the favorite. This is one of those weights where we talk about the race to second. The first time I ever heard that phrase was when John McAlphin was obviously poised to win 126 that year, and it was Will Patterson from Moody and Fletcher Swindle from Alexandria.
Mm-hmm.
And they called it to race the second, and I thought that was kind of sad, but because Will Patterson was a senior that year. I think Swindle had another year, so I was a little surprised. He had 2 more years,
another couple of years. Yeah. All right, so which of these three do you think is the closest bracket that you think that maybe somebody can make some noise and knock off a Weaver? Would it be? I don't think it's 160.
No.
Question I have is it 170 or is it 182?
I feel like it's the eye doctor's like 1 or 2. Honestly, I've been I would probably say it's going to happen at 82.
Okay.
Now, Anderson's the only kid of those guys who hasn't won a state title.
Is that true? I don't remember. I don't know that. Is that true?
I think Ursi and
Johansson.
I think it was those two. I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure Ursi's a returning state champ.
Okay.
But I am extremely impressed with Brennan, and I don't think I'm going to pronounce his last name right. Yamain.
Probably, yeah.
I know that, but he's an 8th grader, and he has made so much noise. But honestly, out of all those guys, I think Harris and Yamain, who are probably going to see in the semifinals, I think one of those two has the best chance to take out a Weaver at 182.
Okay, so I agree with you, and the reason I agree with you is not because Devin isn't dominant, but there are a number of different wrestlers in this bracket that I think could all make a run. Not to say that these brackets don't have that, but Dylan Harris, I mean, he's the leader of that Asheville crew. Clayton Craft for St. James has been there. Cody Freer. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting bracket. I love the bottom side of the 182 pound bracket. I think it'll be fun to watch. All right, so let's jump to 195, and we got Mason Ellis coming in as our top number 1 seed, and Galloway coming down at the 2 seed. Are you surprised by that? I don't know. Did they wrestle last weekend? Is that the reason?
They did.
Okay.
They did. And
you want me to look?
I watched that match, and I was very surprised that Ellis kind of took it to Galloway. I think Galloway's been coasting. I think he finally got to. It was like I talked about in that other match. It was a Huntsville Vestavia match, but it did not look like Galloway wanted to get up. I think that Ellis had mentally beaten Galloway. Now, do I think that repeats? I don't know. I think Galloway has had those kinds of matches where he's been pinning everybody like this. Have you seen Galloway? He's a pretty strong.
Yeah, not in a while. I think the last time I saw him was maybe in the state semifinal dual semifinals. But yeah, you're right. I mean, and that's one of the negatives, right? Of going out there and hammering your competition, and then you find yourself in a very close, very difficult, tight match, and you haven't been pushed all that often. How do you respond?
Yeah, 100%.
All right, so let's jump to 220 in 1A, 4A, and I'm gonna flip it back over here. I hope this is not giving anybody fits with me switching all the time. And I think this is actually a really, really good weight class from top to bottom. But I'm not surprised with Layden Olson coming in as the number 1 seed. What do you think?
Yeah, I would say 1 through 6 all have a very, very good shot of taking that top spot. I was a little surprised that Rayner made the finals as the 1 seed from Bayshore Christian, but fell to Russell Clanton. Now Russell Clanton showed a lot of how versatile he is, wrestling this past weekend. But 1 through 6, I would honestly say this is probably the deepest weight when it comes to someone outside of maybe 182.
Yeah,
Where
no,
there's so many guys who have that shot of not only winning it, but for some upsets.
I agree with you. All right. And 285, this is such a great. So Carson Hall, he's got that one loss sitting there, and it was to Cole Dennis earlier in the year. He obviously avenged that loss last weekend. But, Carson Hall is one of the best 285s, regardless of classification in the state of Alabama, in my opinion. But the thing that's really interesting about this weight to me is a possible Mason Wilson, Cole Dennis, bottom side of the bracket. Kind of a lot of fun to watch. What do you think?
I mean, obviously, I'm still going to probably put Hall and Dennis in the finals. Now, Wilson has shown that he's grown a lot since last year. I remember watching one match last season, wasn't super impressed, but he looks completely different going into this season.
Yeah.
So I'll be interested to see the match, but I still think that Cole Dennis and Carson Hall are kind of a grain above everyone else in this weight. Now Mason Wilson, a really solid heavyweight in the state of Alabama, but I still think like Carson Hall was way up here and Cole Dennis got pinned to the state finals last year. Cole Dennis beat Carson Hall in a very close match. And not only that, but the only other times that he's lost to him, it's been by points. So I think he lost 5-1 in the sectional finals this past weekend. So I'll be interested what kind of adjustments Cole Dennis can make to try to make a better run in his senior year.
So wrapping up 1A, 4A, Ohatchee? Is it Asheville? Is it Weaver? I mean, it seems like it could be a number of different schools.
Oh yeah. I mean, you would think Weaver, but then Weaver also didn't win. How much is the state duel is going to foreshadow what happens in the team race this weekend?
Yeah. Well, in Ohatchee, didn't they beat Asheville in the section last weekend?
I believe so. Yeah.
And they qualified more to the state tournament. So is this where Ohatchee makes the run and is able to claim the title? I think that this is going to be really fun from a team perspective to watch. So, all right, man, you ready to go to 5A, 6A?
Oh, it's my favorite. So let's do it.
5A, 6A. You ready?
Yep, I'm ready. Let's get back.
All right, man. So, only bracket in Alabama that's 16 instead of an 8-man bracket. Preference 8, 16.
I've talked to kids from so many different states. And I've talked to other guys. People tend to like those bigger brackets. So honestly, I don't know if we should go the Louisiana route and throw everybody, no qualifying tournament. Just throw everybody out there, see what happens. But like we kind of saw what that did last year. Saw a lot of kids making that 6th place spot in 7A and 1 through 4A that probably normally wouldn't get that. So who knows? Personally, I'm a bigger fan of bigger brackets. Don't get me wrong. I loved only having to wrestle twice one day and the finals the next, but.
All right. So let's go 5A, 6A, 106. And again, a reminder to everyone, this is not really seated. In fact, it's not seated. If you go to what I showed you before and you hit weights and you hit 5A, 6A, 106 and you went seeds, Trey Peeler might be the 1 seed, but but Preston Jones is not the 9 seed, you know. Jaxon Unger is not the 8 seed. It just happens to be what line they fall on. It doesn't actually have to do with their actual seeds. So this is pretty much, I'm pretty sure, placed out exactly the way I described it earlier. So we've got our South Section champ with Trey Peeler on top, Preston Jones, North Section champ down at the bottom. Give me a favorite and tell me which side of the bracket do you think is maybe more difficult to get through?
I'm probably going to say that my favorite for this weight is Preston Jones from Alexandria. He's made quite a few heads turn this year. I remember I was talking to Jaden New, and Jaden New swore that Preston Jones was going to be the MBT, the next big thing. And he has. He's really shown up this entire season. Really made a big statement, taking out a couple 7A hammers at the, I don't even know. It used to be Communicad, but now it's, I don't even know who it is, but the Bob Jones, Dick Clement.
Dick Clem. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He took out a couple 5-6A hammers along with a couple 7A. But honestly, I would say the hardest side of the bracket trying to make the finals has got to be that top side. And I think a lot of it stems with Jaxon Unger making that 6th spot.
Yeah.
I didn't get to look how deep into the bracket that happened. I did see that Trey Peeler had won it. But
let's see here real quick. He lost in the semis after beating Satan in tiebreaker there in the quarters, and then lost to Blaylock on a medical forfeit. So
yeah, that's what I figured.
That tells you that Unger doesn't look like a typical number 6, right?
Yeah.
Because he forfeited out to that spot. That makes the Nick Sykes Jaxon Unger first round match a lot of fun.
Another one is that Springfield and Blaylock is going to be a very important match. With if Springfield wins it or Blaylock wins it, I see one of them possibly being able to take it to Peeler. Colby Silva, that's going to be a tough first round match for a number 1 seed in general. So,
all right. Dark horse. You got one?
Stone State from Scottsboro.
All right. Love it. Okay. And what we're going to do here is I'm going to put some limitations. As dark horse here has to finish 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th. So while DeMarcus Poe might seem like a dark horse because he finished 3rd, I'm not going to allow that to happen. So a 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th from this point forward. Okay. 113. Lazada is the South Section champ. Clark is a North Section champ, but because of a default, an injury, some type of slam, something happened. Brody Christmas ends up right here on the bracket. And that's tough for this quarter. So who's your favorite?
Brody Christmas, easily.
Okay.
Probably my favorite to win this. Now I think we're gonna see some of my if the CA's kind of fall into place, I think we see fireworks in the semis between Lozada, Christmas, Clark, and Duncan.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be very big.
I think Duncan is a real threat on the bottom side of that bracket. So I think that's somebody that everybody needs to pay a lot of attention to. All right. So now let's jump to 120, 5A, 6A, 120. And what do you think of this bracket? Off the top of my head, Will Anderson has been just fantastic. But this isn't an easy bracket.
No, there's absolutely so much depth at this weight, from Logan Shell placing 7th in the North,
right,
to somebody like somebody who had one of the best tournaments ever in Landon Keith from Chelsea, who was, actually one of my picks to be a contender when I saw that he was wrestling again. He wrestled in youth. I don't know if any of you guys know his dad, Wettermark Keith, on the billboards
Oh
for
yeah,
uh
at least all
lost
over Birmingham, right?
yeah.
I don't know if it goes anywhere outside of there.
I don't know. Alexander Shannara seems like he's popular just about everywhere you go in the South. So
that's
you
a true
never know.
statement.
But I mean, you're not wrong, and this is probably one of the harder weights. I still say Anderson's probably my pick to win it. I think that the Strickland Stewart possible semifinal will be an extremely good match.
I agree with you. I'm a huge fan of the Scottsboro kids and John Stewart, and I think that is just, that could be lights out. But they need to pay attention. They can't look ahead, because that's a tough bracket right there. All right, so let's jump to 126. Hudson Waldrop comes in as our South Section champ. Clinton Stewart comes in as our North Section champ. Yeah, do you see those two kind of making their way through, or do you have somebody else sitting in the bracket that might surprise a few people?
I really couldn't say, because Hudson Waldrop literally just teched his way through the sectional tournament. I don't see many. I'd say maybe like a Gabe Hicksonbaugh. I don't see many other people taking their way through. He's just an absolute hammer and neutral and on top. Now I do think this is a weight where we could see some of the lower seeds, like what did I just see? Samlin Pike, who's a returning state, well, not returning, but he's a state finalist.
Right, 2 years ago, right?
Returning, I think he did place in the top 8 last year at state.
Mm-hmm.
I could see him making a run for it. Noah Smith, who was quite the young gun last year. Andrew Maxwell, finally in his senior campaign. I don't know how. I feel like he's been wrestling forever, honestly. Like back when he's at East Limestone and then transferred to Athens.
Well, you get, especially with some of the smaller schools, especially if you can start in 7th grade, they do seem like they've been around for quite some time. We don't necessarily get to see that a whole lot in 7A, but we certainly see it definitely in 5A, 6A more often. Especially with the Scottsboro, Arab, Athens, those crew. All right, so let's jump to 132 in 5A. And, Gabe Warren beat Sam Sutton in the finals, South Sectional. I think that makes the bottom really interesting, because I think Sutton's dangerous, but boy, Deshaun Poe just looked fantastic. You got a tough Lincoln Bryan up top. So how do you see this playing out?
I mean, I think those top 4 seeds end up playing all the way through. I don't know too much about anybody else. I think the backside will be very interesting. Maybe we see somebody who doesn't normally place, but I think you see Warren, Bryant, Poe, Sutton. I would love to say that there are certain people could beat Gabe Warren, but I've seen Gabe Warren throw Gray Ortiz in a headlock in the finals. Or in the semis. So you really don't know. I mean, and I wouldn't even say he's feast or famine, because if he doesn't pin you, he still has a very amazing shot at beating you.
Yeah, and he lost last year to Hicks, right, in the finals.
He did. Chase Hicks at 145. Oh yeah. Wow, he's down at 32.
He is down at 32. I'm totally surprised he's down at 32. But anyway, and that brings us to, this is the match. This is the weight that I think everybody's interested in. We kind of led with this, so I don't want to, beat a dead horse or anything along those lines. But it certainly looks like Land and Poe. There's some other really, really talented wrestlers in the weight, but there's nobody at their level, at least in my opinion.
No, I think you put it perfectly. I think it's the race for third after those two. I think Shilly from Pelham had a fantastic weekend.
Is that how you say it? I think it's Scalisi. Scalisi? Is that how you say it? You don't know. It's all good. He did win the South.
Well, yeah, he beat a very tough Coleman Bates in the finals.
Right.
So
yeah, no, I'm with you. The only reason I say that is that I think when I lived in Birmingham, one of my dentist, yeah, I think so. It may not be the same. If I'm totally wrong, somebody just throw something at me and tell me that I'm wrong. I'm totally good with it. But for anybody watching that, look, you're there, you're watching 7A, you're there watching 1A, 4A. You don't necessarily know the other classifications. Tune in, 138, 5A, 6A. You will watch two of the absolute best kids in the Southeast at 138 pounds go at it for a state title. So anyway, all right, 145. Do you want to make a prediction on Land versus Poe, or you want to just avoid it? And it's okay. I don't want to call you out.
I'm going to go Isaiah Poe.
Are you really?
Yes. I think that he's going to do some things this week that people won't be expecting. So
I'm going to disagree. I'm going to go with Corey. And the reason I'm going to go with Corey is, I mean, so first I want to say Isaiah stepped up into, he stepped up into the weight and he threw everything at Corey last weekend in a great match. Absolutely. People have been texting me, telling me that Poe's going to take him this weekend. And I'm a probability person. And the way I look at it is nobody's done it yet. And last weekend was good. It was a great match, but it didn't matter. It didn't end up going a different way. So I'm going to stick with Corey Land being the favorite to win until somebody proves me otherwise.
Do you have a lot of people texting you thinking that I thought that was going to be a good hot take right there?
No, I've actually had quite a few people texting me, telling me that.
That's funny.
All right. Everybody loves an underdog, you know? I mean, honestly, everybody wants, not that they want to see one person win or one person lose, but you know, everybody loves the excitement of picking somebody from nowhere. And Isaiah's not coming from nowhere, but you know what I'm saying? They like to see, they like to see the exciting thing happen. You know,
I think somebody wants to watch Corey Land lose. Like, I think that's it.
Do you think people want to watch Corey Land lose?
I think that's what most of it is.
Really? I don't want to watch.
Don't get me wrong. It's not because Corey's mean. Corey is one of the absolute nicest guys you'll ever meet. I love Corey.
Right.
I'm really playing devil's advocate, and I want to see somebody beat Corey. Not because, like I said, not because I don't like Corey, but because nobody's done it.
Not in a long time, that's for sure.
Was his last high school in season high school loss was to current William Baptist University wrestler Will Souter. No.
Nick Souter.
No. Isn't Nick his older brother? Or did I get that wrong?
Nick's the older brother. When's the last time Corey lost?
It was Will Souter. It was the freshman year, or his 8th grade year sectionals.
Is that right?
I think so.
Wow. Okay.
That's gotta be right.
You know what? You can text, you can Instagram Jaxon Bast at Alabama Wrestling Forums and let him know. Huh?
At Bamawrestle. Yep.
Bamawrestle. Sorry, Bamawrestle. At Bamawrestle. All right, so let's jump to 45. And you know, I think this is a great weight. I mean, I think this is a fantastic weight. We talked about it last weekend. It was one of the things that we kind of highlighted. Campbell took it. You know, he beat Bryce in the finals, I think 4-3. I went and watched that match. But you know, you got Josh Rowe up top. You've got Trent Gillum there. I think this is a great weight class. What do you think?
I mean, I 100% agree with you. I definitely saw the little post-match chirp from Bryce Wanagat on Pelham's Instagram page.
Oh, really?
He held up his second place medal and said, "I'm going to change the story." And like I said, I talked about it last week. He's poised to be a 6-time placer. So can he finally cap it off with that state championship? That's the question.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, so let's jump to 152. And you know, Jaden New has been unbelievable, and for me has to be the favorite. But I have been super impressed with Cole Sykes. He's going to have to beat some really good wrestlers on the top side to even get a matchup with Jaden New. But I think that's your final. What do you think?
I would think, based on statistics, you're right, and I think that's going to happen as long as Summerlin doesn't overlook Sykes. I think that's. I think there's a.
Or as long as Sykes doesn't overlook Summerlin. Or you think it's going to be Summerlin versus New?
Yeah.
You think it's going to be Summerlin versus New in the finals?
Yeah. Did you not say that? I thought you did.
No, I said Sykes versus New in the finals.
No. I think Summerlin can definitely pull it off. He's had a lot of really, really close matches with Jaden.
He has,
but
including one last weekend, right? Wasn't it like 3-1 or something?
I think it was 5-2. I think.
Okay.
It was 5-2. The first time they wrestled, it was 1-0. And I remember talking to Jaden when I did that 5-6A midseason ranking show, and he talked to, I think it was after either Alexandria's tournament or it was the duel with Moody. And he went over to Ryan and said, "Hey man, if you want to leave this weight, you can." And Ryan was like, "No, I'm staying here. So
this is my weight."
Yeah, this is my weight. So
all right. So let's jump to 160. And I mean, Ortiz, Melton Poe. You and I last week talked about Oliver Howard. Made it all the way to the finals. Super tough. Lost to Poe in the finals. And certainly a threat up top. But I think you probably, at least for me, I'm looking at Ortiz versus Poe in the finals of this one. What do you think?
Yeah, I would say that's a very solid bet. I think maybe Russo travels his way to the semis to take on Poe, but I don't think that's going to be enough. Poe, I think we saw a lot from Oliver Howard, but I think what we saw in the finals is that Oliver Howard is not there yet. He's only a sophomore, and he turned a lot of heads, so maybe he gets that third place. I don't know. Preston Reed is also a state champ, and that's a 6.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's tough. Yeah, no doubt. All right, so let's jump to 170. Boy, again, another potential outstanding final between the two section champs, which both looked good last weekend. Who's your favorite?
Keenan Wyatt is definitely my favorite, but I would definitely disagree and say I think Luke Jasper is going to make the finals.
Okay. You think Jasper beats Knight?
Yes.
Or do you think Knight doesn't even get to the semis?
No, I think he does. I think he takes out Sanchez from Jasper. But I still see Luke Jasper, John Luke Jasper making the finals. I don't see much around it.
Okay.
He's taking on both the Poe brother, or both the Wyatts now. So
right. All right, so let's jump up to 182. And boy, Caleb Rowe beat Kennedy Wyatt in the finals, I think last weekend, right? And looked good doing it. What do you see here? And do you have a dark horse in this bracket on one side or the other?
I definitely see Caleb Rowe, Kennedy Wyatt. I'm really torn with who ends up where. I think if anybody's going to be a dark horse for me, it's probably going to be Ciosi from Gulf Shores. Based on your rules, can't be somebody who's lower than the bottom 5. I wouldn't be surprised if we see McFall make his way all the way to the
Right,
third place match.
but
maybe
according to my
throw a
rules,
brand.
he wouldn't be a dark horse, right?
Yeah. So, but I would definitely say that Siosi can be. He's, he was at Oxford, made a lot of noise there. Goes down to Gulf Shores, has been a big senior leader for them. So
Yeah. All right, so let's jump to 195, and another Opelika kid, Jack Pritchard, comes in after winning the South. Cole Carter looked good in winning the North over Colby Clark. What do you how do you see this kind of playing out? And do you have a favorite in the weight?
Cole Carter is easily the favorite for me.
Okay.
Now I think the 1, the 2, and the 3 from the North end up placing 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
I think Pritchard ends up coming at 4th. And that's my prediction for this weight. After I saw the match between Cole Carter and Colby Clark, and I love Colby. He trained at Warrior with me a long time, known him for quite some time, definitely would have rooted for him. But when I saw that him wrestling Cole Carter just looked absolutely amazing out there. So I'm probably going to still go Cole Carter. And then I think Colby Clark makes the finals, but Colby Clark's going to have to make a miracle happen to win this.
All right. So let's jump to 220. We got Avery Boyette of Russell County up there as the South Section champ. Will Kinnear from Buckhorn is your North Section champ. In a weight that, it looks like it's kind of got a lot. I mean, there's a lot of really interesting matchups. And I think you could pick a dark horse out of this bracket and make a case for them. But go ahead. Tell me what you think.
I would say you're right. I think it's a fairly easy thing to say. I think it's the Will Kinnear show. I don't think many people could touch him. Now, I would think my dark horse is probably Charlie Hollis. And if you ask me, I think Hollis makes the semis. I think that Gurley and Hollis is a big matchup that we're going to see. And I say Hollis makes the finals as the 5.
Really? Okay. Okay.
I think he was the 1 seed. He at sectionals. I still think he's going to win it, or not win it, but he'll make it to the finals.
Yeah, and so and the reason I think we're probably looking at Kinnear is, I mean, he's wrestled everyone. He goes everywhere. He wrestles lots of different wrestlers. He's been all over the place. He's 35-0 this year. He's been pretty dominant. So I think that he's a pretty clear favorite. I'm just saying that everywhere else in this bracket, I think that there's a lot of, you can make a case for, some really interesting, tough matches all the way through. So, all right. So let's jump to 285 and our final weight class. Talk to me about what you see here and maybe what you see happening.
Now I think this is one of those weights that we've got quite a bit of depth. I've seen Foster wrestle. I was a little surprised that it didn't land in the favor of Willie Cox. Willie Cox would probably be the guy after watching this past season. I think maybe he'd be the guy. Honestly, I don't know if I could try to pick someone. Like, I think there's so much depth, and then it's heavyweight. Like, honestly, you roll a guy, it's over. So
right. So this is how I reach my favorite. Because I thought Willie Cox coming in, looked like one of the tops, and Foster took care of business. He's undefeated. He has a 0 up there. As a result, I think he's the favorite because the bottom side is tough. I think it's really tough to get through, and Foster has more of a clear path. The Decatur kid is really interesting out of Hunter Claiborne out of the North, which I think will be really interesting as well. but right now I lean Caleb Foster being the favorite. I don't know if that will end up being what it is when I actually write my fans guides, but that's kind of my reasoning for where I got to it. What do you think?
And it's not like Stanhope Elmore hasn't produced some solid heavyweights in the past. So
Right.
they had a state champ, in 2017?
Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah.
Was it 17? 18?
17. 17, he was a junior, but he lost to Hueytown in the semifinals. And I just lost his name. I could picture him because he's got the very, very patented mustache.
Yeah, I don't remember. I got way too many names swimming through my head now. All right. What do you see happening in the team race? And we'll wrap this up. And the reason I bring this up, Mortimer Jordan edged both Gardendale and Arab to take the section title. But Gardendale's they've got a lot of hammers. How do you see it playing out?
Honestly, I think Mortimer Jordan takes it.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. I've been really impressed with what they've done. Did Mountain Brook get second or first in the South?
Second. McAdory, I think, took first.
McAdory, yeah, there you go. McAdory got first. I think a lot of cards are falling in their favor, and I also think there's a lot more longevity to the success of Mortimer Jordan. I don't see that many people. I don't think they have that. I don't think they have tons and tons of kids graduating. So I think they'll be a force to be reckoned with. I think they do have. They've got obviously like John Luke Jasper's graduating. There are a couple others, but a lot of them it's going to be that next class. So maybe they're back-to-back state champs. Who knows?
Well, let's win the first one first. but yes, I actually think that Gardendale might be the favorite to win the team simply because of their hammers, but it wouldn't surprise me at all. Winning last week by a half a point over Gardendale, super close. State tournament's a little bit different of a ball game in how that all plays out. But it's going to be certainly an exciting team race. I don't think that there's any doubt about the fact that we have 5 or 6 teams that can really kind of be in the mix for taking home a title. All right. So on Sunday of next week, or this coming week, after the state title is done, the headline will be what?
I don't know. That's a tough one.
Okay. All right. I mean, you already picked Poe, so is it Poe over Land? Is that the headline?
No, I think the headline is Mortimer Jordan wins the state tournament.
Okay. All right. I could get that.
I don't know. That's probably the biggest headline I could think of right now. I think Mortimer Jordan winning it is more shocking to me than Poe over Corey Land, because I mean they're pretty close all together. So I don't know.
All right, man. So remember, Bamawrestle, send all direct messages and comments right there, and look for my fans guide on SC Wrestle. And we hope you guys really enjoy the weekend in Huntsville. It is going to be fantastic. Any last parting words, Jaxon, before we go?
It's going to be fireworks in Huntsville. That's all I got to say.